lied on when I said my next big project was gonna be that triple gauge pod in the car. It's not. It's actually gonna be this. So when I got the Skyline, the headlights were actually in really bad shape. I did the best I could to make these clear, but if you look, there's still a tinge of yellow in there. So I've got brand new lenses I'm gonna put in. And on top of that, I'm gonna cut said brand new lens to put a headlight duct in here. So there's gonna be a duct straight to the intake, which is on the left-hand side of this car. This is the passenger side, right-hand drive things. But the left-hand side has the intake. So this is gonna be a duct to get that cold air straight to it. And then what I'm going to do right now, which is kind of anal, but something I wanna take care of, if you look down there, this is actually kind of rough and I wanna smooth that out. So what I'm gonna do is add one small layer of gloss black paint into there to help smooth that out. So it'll be one small layer just to get that smooth, but still have this be embossed. So it'll give it a pop of color and still be embossed where you can see it's in there. So let's see how this turns out. I've got the first couple letters done, and if you're asking how I'm doing this, I'm taking a needle and slowly injecting color in there until it's all colored up. So it's not perfect. If you look in the middle of the D, there's a little bit that flowed out there, in the middle of the O actually, now that I'm looking at it. Trying to touch those up without touching it up too much, but it's coming along. So I just got 4 more letters to do and this will be done. Not a long job, took about 2 minutes to get to where I'm at. So 10-minute job, but hopefully this makes a huge difference. Final results of how the Godzuki turned out. I did do another layer because some of the areas were still kind of rough, but you can see it's pretty smooth. It's still embossed, so you can still see the layer to it. And there are some specks of shop towel in there because I kept using the shop towel to clean stuff up, but came out pretty good. So now I'm on to this, working on this headlight. So I took off the valve. There's a valve cover that has just one screw in it, and then I took this off with these 3 screws and that one ground screw, which took all this stuff off the bottom. I was gonna remove all the wires, but I'm not gonna do that. And what I'm gonna do from here is this instructions from Japan for the, what's it called, says to heat it up to 150 degrees for 10 minutes. I'm gonna use my oven because I wanna heat this up. I've got a heat gun also, but I'm gonna heat it up for 10 minutes at 150. I think I get 170, but heat this up and then try to break this seal loose and get this lens off. Yeah, boy. Well, I'm happy to say this is super clear, and while that bakes for another 6 minutes, this is the headlight I'll be working with first. So the first thing I gotta do is lay some really flat masking tape over the whole thing. But I did want to show this. I'm gonna try not to get my handprints all over this, how much of a difference there is between this and this. So it's pretty obvious. I mean, I guess maybe not obvious in the camera, but that has a yellowish tinge to it while this is super clear. I'll put the 2 headlights next to each other after I finish it, but I'm really happy with the way this looks. So we're gonna cover the whole thing with some masking tape really flat so we can start making the template to start cutting, which is scary, but we're gonna do this anyways.
One eternity later.
Like that, we've got it all masked down. So this side is really flush. It gets kind of bumpy over here, but I don't really care about over there. It's this side I need to worry about. And I do applaud Boost for making this 3D printed template. As I was doing that damn, what's it called last week, the hood latch. I didn't come with a template, I had to fight with that, but I'm glad this template is made the way it is. It actually has the bends to fit on the headlight perfect. So I am going to cut this out. The one thing I did know about the template though, notice about the template, is a little bit big side to side this way, which I'm gonna try to figure out which side I wanna truncate that or make it a little bigger, or a little smaller, excuse me, to make sure I get as much or as tight on this as I can. So if I cut it the way it is right now, this is gonna shift left and right, but I wanted to sit flush in there and have as much of this lip that I can play with to try to seal. I feel like if I cut it out the way the template is right now, it'll move too much. I'll try to show that in a second, but going to go ahead and next step is to make out the template on here and start cutting. So they do show, and I'll show you what I mean. The same thing I did on the hood latch is to cut straight lines. Don't try to follow the curves. So I'm gonna cut straight lines and then cut out the other pieces slowly with the Dremel. But yeah, I'm kind of happy the way this is looking so far, but it's scary getting to these cuts. That's the next step. Can't really show this very well one-handed, but if you see this, it is moving left and right just a little bit. So that is it moving left and right. That doesn't really move as well as I'd want it to. But there's about a centimeter or two. Oh, I'm done baking. There's a centimeter or two of this moving left and right. I need to clean that up, so I'm gonna work on that. But first, let's get this out of the oven. I'm starting to have some success with it coming apart. but I've had to bust out the heat gun. The little heat at the 175 didn't really do much, but if you just slowly heat the backside, so the backside where the glue actually, the residue actually sits, not just going around it every minute or so, doing some heat and then opening it up, doing some heat and then opening it up, it's coming off. So it's not hard at all. Just take your time and don't rush it. And if you ever see any of this backside starting to discolor, it means you're putting too much heat, back it off and go to a different location. And we got success. The last little bit of it's coming off. So as I said, ooh, I might have to hit that with heat before it comes all the way off. Oh, nope, it's gonna come all the way off. So there we go. So lens officially off. So I've got to pull this lens apart to actually do the rest of this work, but put this down so I can actually film. So, but I've got the lens actually off. So now I've got to actually remove the 4 screws from this and start working on that and actually cutting through this to make the duct actually go all the way through. But we got success, got the lens off. That was all I was going to do today. So I'm going to stop for today. I got some more other stuff I need to be doing today, but I'll do the rest later. All right, after getting the headlight apart, you got to remove this out of here. Just be careful because you're going to have to reuse this. There's 4 screws in it, and then you just lift it out and be careful when you're lifting it out. So I've got mine out. It's actually stuck again, but it comes out. So I'll get that when I have 2 hands so I don't mess that up because I have to reuse that. And then you're going to unscrew these 2. These are to level the high beam. You're going to unscrew these 2 until it unscrews from the back of this. So that will unscrew out of this and be able to push the high beam out. But once you get it there, I ended up not doing this right. I didn't know this, but this piece here broke off. So this piece was actually in here and it pops out. So when I tried to pull it out, it actually broke. So I had to pop it out. To pop it out, I needed to just rotate it over and it popped out. But you can see it's one of those like ball joint type things. So once you get that out, then you've got the high beam out. And now I've got to go about cutting this out. They say you're gonna have to cut this rubber grommet and then you put this template they gave. So they gave another template to put on the back of this. So this template here. So they gave some pretty good templates, but I don't think this template is actually the right size. So this template goes around it like so, and it gives you the template for where you need to cut. So once you get it around there, you gotta cut this grommet and then it'll sit flush and then you're supposed to cut the inside of this. But I don't think this is the right template because, where's it at? This. It actually does not fit on the back of this. And this has to go out the back. So I'm probably gonna have to cut this bigger. What they say in the instruction is, it doesn't matter how big you cut this. But I don't wanna cut this ridiculously big because I want this to seal, of course. They're like, you can put sealant anywhere around it to make it seal. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting to try to make this fit. A lot of stuff's gotta get cut out. This stud's gotta get cut out. There's gonna be a lot of stuff on the back side of this that I'm gonna have to cut through. So I'll try to figure that out and do this as best I can. Still excited to do this, but this template here is actually scaring me more than cutting into the actual front of the lens. So we'll see what happens. Okay, I actually pushed this grommet out. So there's that grommet right there. I pushed it out, it actually goes in that way. So you can push it out and get it out of the way. So I'm gonna cut around this, and actually I figured this out. You gotta cut around this. So I'm gonna try to get the Dremel to cut around this as well as I can, and it'll seal around this. So that's my next step, is to cut this out, and then I will try to put this grommet back in and then seal around the grommet. I mean, the grommet's gonna have to be cut, as you can see, but I'll try to get the grommet back in there. It'd have been really cool if they would have, you know, did a bow here so you didn't have to cut this grommet. So maybe did a bow like that in the backside. It wouldn't really have mattered too much, but they did straight. So now you got to cut a grommet and reseal a grommet, which is kind of scary to me. But I'm gonna probably spray the back of this with a whole bunch of Flex Seal since nobody's ever gonna see back here, just to make sure this backside seals, because I'm worried about this sealing overall. All right, episode of Good Idea, Bad Idea. So couldn't really figure out how I was gonna get a Dremel around this. Put this on here so y'all can see it. So I couldn't really figure out how I was gonna get a Dremel around this because it's so intricate. So what I ended up doing was cutting etches. As you can see here, there's an etch that I cut with an X-Acto knife. So I'm gonna use those etches to kind of line up where I'm planning on cutting and use the Dremel to do that. So that's my plan. We'll see how well it works, but there's etches all the way around where that, what's it called, sat. So I'm gonna cut that around, that template off of these etches, and then put the template back on and get back to cutting some more. So let's see how this goes. If I fuck this up though, this is a $4,000 headlight unit. So don't wanna mess this up, kinda wanna make this work. So let's see if I can get it right. So kind of cutting this outside because my garage is full of cars right now and it's raining. I kind of want to get this done. So I'm sitting in the rain cutting this. You can see all the little bits and pieces out there. But I'm cutting it with this, which is probably not the best of all ideas. We'll put the little etching tool on the edge of the Dremel, and that is giving me the ability to walk it along and cut through this. So you can see I've already started cutting around, and I'm actually doing pretty good. On this back half, I'm actually cutting way in. So you see the holes there through that inner loop, because I'm gonna hit this with a file and or a sanding wheel and sand that in, because I can't really get over there very well. But everywhere else, I've kind of etched it pretty well. So I actually should be able to push this side, can't reach it, but the side over there with that white thing out. I'm probably gonna cut this white thing off to try to get in there and cut very well, because it won't ever be used again, and it's just for this screw over here. So let's see how this goes, but it's coming along, and I'm gonna go back out here in this rain and keep cutting, because, you know, race car things, and hopefully I don't get sick. Yay. All right, this is where we're at right now. It's kind of raining too hard for me to finish this right now, but you can see where I've cut, kind of. So this side over here is not bad, so it's actually following the line pretty well. Gotta figure out what I'm gonna do about this. I think I'm gonna cut that white piece off on the back, and then try to figure out where I can cut the rubber or the plastic off around that. But I've got to get to this area back here. My plan right now is just to hit it with a sanding belt and sand this all down. But we'll see how that goes. But I'm not going to do it in the house, because even though I'm a bachelor, I still don't want this shit all over my house. So I'm gonna wait for this rain to die down some, and then try to sand the rest of this down, so I can try to see if I can fit this duct in the back of this. Once I get that duct in the back, I've still got to cut the lens, so that's gonna be fun. But you know, that's another problem. I'll have to wait for the rain to stop on that, and I really want to take my time on this, cutting this lens, because this is brand new and don't want to damage this. But we'll wait for that once this rain calms down. Stop raining, and I'm gonna try to do this one-handed, but it's probably not gonna work. But now I am actually cutting this out to try to make this fit. So right now, that top piece where my hand is up, where my finger's moving is what's blocking me, and I'm just shaving that down slowly until I can get that in. And then I'm gonna have to shave this backside where that curve is a lot, but I want to try to shave it as well as I can. I really wish that they did something on this backside of here to make it just like if it was only like just the circle of the actual high beam. So like the high beam had a circle similar to this one. If it was just the circle of the high beam back here, this would be super simple to cut out. But they kind of kept it, I mean, I guess they wanted to get as much air in here as possible, but they really could have adjusted the shape of this back end to make this shaving a lot simpler. So far it's coming along, but I'm just trying to keep it as smooth as possible and as close as possible. But we'll see what happens. Give it some more time. Okay, we've got some success, but we've got some not so success. So if you look at this top part, I don't know if y'all can see it. There's a huge gap at this top part where I gotta have to fill this with stuff. So I have to figure out how I'm gonna fill that. And if you think about it, I can't use like butyl rubber here, because I have to have this in here when I put the lens in the front. And there's gaps back here that are gonna be hard to seal. So this is gonna be pretty hard to seal. So look at their instructions again. I think they just say seal it, doesn't matter how much of a gap there is. I mean, some areas I did pretty good, like over here, this isn't too bad, but this gap right here is gonna scare the shit out of me. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I wish I can get a better light through there for y'all to see how big this gap is, but it's pretty damn big, just say that. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to seal that. There we go, that gap there, I'm gonna have to figure out how to seal that. And then also how to seal way back in here, because I can't even really get back in there to seal it. And I can't start from this side because I've got to get the lens on here first to get the spacing so I know how far back this goes. So I have to put the lens in and everything else on this side and then seal the back. So I'm probably gonna flex seal the shit out of this backside and then seek a flex and just do everything I can to try to seal this backside. I'm gonna reach out to Boosted and see if they got any recommendations, but yeah, this sealing on the back end does not look like it's going to be easy. Well, I probably should have did this earlier and took this video, but I've already started cutting. As you can see, I'm trying to do a box to not try to do circular, and I'm trying to get this chunk out right now. What I'm gonna do after I get that chunk out is make lines to this, and then try to cut those lines out, and then just notch the rest with a sanding belt to try to get it flat. But I'll have to get to these corners pretty snug, and the sanding belt won't get there. But I'm gonna have to try to do this, but take your time here. I think I actually went over a little bit. You can see this section over here up top where my finger's hitting. Actually, no, not that section. Where did I go over at? I went over a little bit, over here at the bottom left. So you can see I went over a little bit, but I'm hoping that doesn't show. Hopefully the cover of it will cover it. But yeah, cutting this out, kind of scary. If I fuck this lens up, I gotta buy a new one. Yay. So, got the little flimsy things cut out. I cut a lot of them. These are gonna be easier to get out of there, but it has the outline of the, what's it called? Did the same thing over here. They're a little chunkier over here, but I had to cut these down on the ground. So hopefully I can get these out of here easily. I'm gonna hit this now with the saw this way, as far away from this edge as I can do, and then I'll walk it out with the sander, the rotary sander, to try to smooth it all out and then see if it fits. Okay, we got some traction, so let me zoom in. So got this all notched out, so I'm gonna walk this down with a rotary sander. On these corners though, I'm gonna have to try to notch that with the, whether I do it with the blade or a reciprocal saw or something, but I'm gonna have to get closer to that edge. But I'm gonna test fit first before I do this side, because this side was already a little bit too loose on the template they gave. So I don't wanna make this so loose that it goes outside of the lip of the duct. But we got some traction, just gonna keep moving on this. Well, I finally got the hole right. It actually sits flush, and I can't zoom because it's so dusty. I mean, I got dust and shit all over myself. But if you put this in, if I get it in one-handed, there we go. It actually sits flush. And what I did is, from the backside, I kept looking at the edges to see what was catching and just notch down that section each time, with the goal of trying to keep as much meat under the lip of the duct, because there's not much of a lip here. So I didn't want to notch it too much, because like, I mean, that's like probably a 2 millimeter lip. So if I'd have notched that too much, I'd have had a gap between the lip and the light lens. So I tried to notch it just little by little as I was doing this. So I just looked on the backside and saw what was touching and tried to keep doing that and notching it slowly and slowly and slowly. But got it in there, so I got to deburr it and clean it up and see if this actually will fit through the light backing. But I'm gonna take a shower first because I am disgusted. All right, quick video of the two lenses by each other. I should have did this before I cut a big old hole in it, but the hole actually looks pretty good. Deburred it. As I said, there was a spot I messed up right there, but it is covered by the edge of the lens or the duct, so that's good. But if you look at these two, I don't know if this actually does it any justice, but this one's a little bit yellow. I can see it in real life. You could just see that this is super clear and that's yellow. And then there's some hazy stuff on this one right in that area. I don't know if it's actually showing on the video, but right around there, it's just hazy. And that was right in front of the headlight. So I just think light coming through it over 25 years made the inside hazy. So even though I did the 3-phase sanding of the outside to try to make it as clear as possible, and it did really good, but that was never able to get totally clear. So got some brand new crystal clear lenses with a hole for a duct. Now I need to put this back together. I think I'm gonna put it together today. I washed this with soap to try to get all the grease off the inside, and then I'm gonna hit it with some Windex to try to make sure there's no streaks on the inside. And then I think I'm actually gonna put this all together. The front, I'm not worried about sealing because I'm gonna use the butyl rubber on the front side. It's the back side that I'm worried about sealing. But I think I'm gonna put some butyl rubber on the back side where it's hard to get to, where I showed earlier. And then I'm gonna flex seal the shit out of the back of that. We'll see what Boost says. I already sent them an email. Let's see if they respond. But if they don't, I will just go ahead with my flex seal plan and hopefully that seals it. But happy to have the new lens, happy to have the hole in here, get this together and get the car back on the ground. All right, this is the backside, the base, whatever you want to call for the headlight. Now, I got lucky. These are xenon headlights, so that's really good. But I've also got some fingerprints in here. I blew all the dirt and dust out of this, so that cleaned it up after I sanded this down. So I sanded this as flush as I can with the thought of this being smooth as it can be will help it seal the best. So I still got like little notches on here of little things, so I'm gonna pull those off, but I'm gonna try to make this as smooth as possible. What is bothering me though is I wish they'd have did this smaller, because the back of the duct actually sits flush against this, and I won't be able to get my finger in there to get anything to seal that. So if I can't seal that very well, I'll have a problem, because when air gets in here, the headlights will fog up, and the insides of the headlights fogging is a problem you don't want to have. So I'm gonna have to try to seal this. I wish they'd have made this duct just a little smaller in the backside. That way you don't have to cut this, you don't have to cut this. Like you see, you're gonna have to cut the grommet. They tell you you're gonna have to cut that. You had to cut this to make it fit. So it's the right size, but look how snug that is right here. How am I gonna get my finger down in there to seal this? And I can't seal it from the backside or inside because I have to seal the headlight first. So I wish maybe on their second generation of these, they'll make this smaller so that you can actually have area over here to work on sealing from the backside so you can make sure that it seals well. But my plan is I'm gonna put some butyl rubber over here and heat it up as I put the duct in the front side. And hopefully that'll get some butyl rubber over here. And then tomorrow I'm gonna tape the backside of the duct, tape all that up, tape other stuff up that I don't wanna get flex sealed, but I'm flex sealing everything over here, because this side of the headlight will never get seen actually. So I'd rather flex seal everything and try to seal it as well as I can to make sure I don't get any water and air in there that's not supposed to be in there, because then the lens fogs up and I don't want to deal with that because I have to take everything back apart and figure out what's leaking. So let's do it the right way the first time, which is gonna be flex sealing everything obnoxiously. There's gonna be so much flex seal, it's gonna be ridiculous. Quick video again to show that gap I was talking about, or the lacquer gap. There's not really a good way to get down in here to seal. So I'm gonna try to put some butyl rubber in there before I put this together to seal there. Everywhere else I can kind of get to, and this is the gap I was talking about that I'm worried about. It's a lot of light coming through right here. It's pretty crappy, that was my fault, but everywhere else is pretty tight. I got the grommet back in there. I also kind of cracked this, so hopefully that stays. I'm probably gonna super glue that, but the only area I'm really worried about is back here. But as I said, I'm gonna just put some butyl rubber down in there, and as I'm putting the duct in, I'll heat that butyl rubber so it kind of runs along with it, and hopefully it doesn't go too much inside. Actually, I'll probably tape this up as I'm doing it to try not to get any butyl rubber in here. But that's my plan. Hopefully that works. I'll check and see if Boost responded yet, but I'll probably not put this in until tomorrow. I'll probably close the light today and put this in tomorrow, and hopefully they'll tell me something by then. All right, we're almost at the point where I'm installing the lens. So I've got the back plate back in there. This was a little bit of a pain to get in there. This side over here, there's a screw. It got caught on that screw, so you might have a little bit of a pain. You gotta put that side in first, and then this side, there's a screw clip. You gotta go past it, so just push the lens out just a little bit to get that past there and get that in. But look how clean and crystal that is. That's pretty sweet. So something that was not on the Boost instructions, but was in these Japanese instructions that came with the lens is, which was a great idea. As you can see, the old lens has a lot of the butyl rubber that came off with it. So if you're changing your lens, definitely put new butyl rubber inside of the channel. But this had an idea of heating this up and then flattening out all the butyl rubber that's in this channel. So when you put the new butyl rubber, and it sits in pretty well. So I'm about to put a new bunch of butyl rubber inside of here and then heat that up and put the lens on and put this back together, and hopefully everything sits right. Let's find out. All right, the lens is totally together. Put new butyl rubber in the channel and then reheated everything after I got it in there. Heated everything so the old butyl rubber or the new butyl rubber will stick together. And then also these tabs, you have to remove 2 tabs on the edge of the lights. There's a tab down here and there's a tab down here. You can actually see this one right now. The plastic was bent out, so I have this trying to hold the plastic down as the butyl rubber sets. So yeah, gonna let this set overnight. I'm actually gonna try the duct right now and see how it fits in there. The reason I think they stuck with that size is actually to fit through that gray piece there. But look at this space here between that gray piece and the back. Like after that gray piece, they could have shrunk it down, like narrowed out the back end of the duct. So like probably this back end piece, narrowed that out to make this not as big as it is, but they kept it the same size as that spot, which is giving me issues with how the hell I'm gonna seal this. So we'll figure it out though, and hopefully I didn't just drop shit inside of there by playing around in here. But that would kind of suck, but I'll try to get anything that's in there out. Well, this is totally together. There's a vent that goes through there, but if you look, you probably can't see it on the top, kind of broke this. Yeah, I was clamping things down and like an idiot clamped to this. I thought I was on this, and as clamping, it just snapped. So I'm gonna try to super glue that now, but this is how the duct is going to look when it's on the car. The good thing is that's far enough out where I can probably get away with not having to worry about where that break is, but I'm not happy about said break. And the other thing that's very interesting is actually here. It doesn't really sit that far out right here. Like there's a barely out of there, but I mean, you could definitely seal that. But as I said before, the part I'm worried about is over here. That section there, how the hell am I gonna seal that? But overall, I'm happy the way this looks. I mean, you got a big air duct going through your headlight now. And it even says Godzuki, look at that. It's all cute, look at that, Godzuki. But that's how the headlight's gonna look. It's gonna be dope as fuck when I get it on the car. Probably one of the first ones in the area with this. Probably won't be the last. I bet you people see this and try to do the same. So, you know, it's kind of dope. Still wish they would have narrowed it out going back so you don't have to have all this stuff and all this tight, how tight this is. I mean, more air is coming through, which is great, but this is really, really tight. But it's in there. Get it on the car. Got to replace the lens on the other headlight, but that'll be a lot easier. And then we'll put this all together. Comparing what the headlight looks like now with the big ass hole in it versus what it looked like before. So all of this is what the headlight looked like. I think they could have really like brought the duct in and made the duct volume smaller as it got to this and made it really just this big circle here, and I wouldn't have had to cut so much. So you see how big this hole is. If they'd have just made it this circle, I think it would have been a lot easier, and I wouldn't even really needed a template. The template could have been the circle. But now, since how big it is, like I mentioned before, it's gonna be hard to do over here. Had to cut through this, had to cut through the grommet down here. But if they'd have just did that circle, all of this would have stayed. Now they did that size because of this in here. So that gray thing on the front of the headlight is why they did that size. And then to keep as much air coming in, I understand that. And you know, as it gets smaller, I haven't taken fluid dynamics, so I don't fully understand this, but as a volume or a space gets smaller, the velocity is gonna increase, so the air is gonna come through and actually be shooting in as a jet. So that's gonna be a problem as far as air just shooting in as at your intake, but I mean, 100 miles an hour, does it really matter? But either way, I really feel as though they could have made this smaller to make this easier. Wouldn't have had to cut through this grommet. I mean, even if they'd have made it so you don't have to cut through this grommet, you don't have to cut through this, and I could have kept this. So this is gonna be where this is. It's the valve to make sure air can come in and out, but no water goes in. This little thing screws in. The screw threads are still kind of there, if you can see them. That bottom piece right here is a screw thread. So that's kind of there. The valve is still there, but I don't think I'll be able to get this little cover on there that actually holds the valve. So there's a lot of stuff that was cut out to make this fit, when I think all of that could have been eliminated if they'd have just done this circle right here. It would have made it a whole lot easier. So I think they did that space and just came out and just gave up on doing any engineering on the duct itself after that. Like, I think somebody might have been a time crunch or whatever it was, but I just, maybe round 2 of their duct will have a stronger duct itself, because I think this is like some ABS or some really, really cheap plastic, so it cracks easily. And then 2, change the shape. Even if it doesn't just change to this circle here, just look at that. Like, even bringing it just a little smaller, you won't have to cut that, and you won't have to cut this grommet over here. Just even those 2 to make it smaller, not to cut those, would make it even better. But this big old hole, I'm gonna seal it somehow, but I lost so much just to come so far. But in the end, will it even matter? We'll find out. Well, you might be wondering why there's 2 ducts. This one is the one that came from Boost. It is actually not very strong material, and they use some filling primer. You can see it's all gray. And I had a little boo-boo over here, and I had to sand, and it turned white, which made me think every rock that hits this is gonna make this change colors and chip up the paint on top. And I thought it was kind of soft. So I had my friend make this one. But the main reason I'm doing this video, so this one's actually much better. It's much stronger. It's made of the carbon fiber or something or another 3D print material. And you don't need the filler because it's nice and smooth from actually when it's originally 3D printed. He has a really good printer, so thank you, Jacob, for making this. But what I wanted to show is this. Look what I did. Remember when I talked about the template was off a little bit? So I screwed up by trying to make this template work and make the size right. So if you look, the size is right, but it's shifted left. I need it there. So the having an issue with the duct actually fitting flat. I think it's actually hitting on the back of that silver ring. So I'm actually shaving the back of that silver ring, which kind of sucks. So I'm shaving it with the light on, hopeful that I don't get any goo and shit inside of there and have to take this all apart again. Kind of a fail on my part. So as you're doing this, don't do as I did. Keep testing the template as you go and make sure you get it straight, because I kind of screwed that up. Yeah, but I still think the template's a little bit too big for the lip, but either way, yay for fails by Joe. Let's see if I can make this right. So after all of that, I had to trim this side that way, the opposite of what I did originally, so I kind of screwed myself. So this side is really, really tight. So I've got a whole lot of butyl rubber all around this. I'm gonna have a whole lot of cleanup to do at the end of this because this is gonna squeeze out. So I'm gonna have to clean up a whole lot of butyl rubber all the way around this, but I'm just gonna use a razor and try to be careful to get the butyl rubber off. But hopefully that works. I had to shave that down with the lens on here. So there's shavings over there. Hopefully it doesn't get on my nerves too much. But when I take the bumper back off to get it painted, because I've got to get that repainted, I will probably pull this apart if those shavings actually bother me and re-clean everything. Yeah, I just said that. Why? Oh God, why did I do this? Okay, so I've butyl rubbered the shit out of the front. As you can see, there's all types of extra butyl rubber sticking out because I don't want this to leak. That is my biggest fear. The little dust that's in there, it's not much. There's a couple little specks. They're all over here. So I'm probably not going to deal with it, but you can see them in there. They're there. I doubt I ever pull this apart again. If I do, I'm probably just going to get a whole new lens, but I can't believe I screwed this up so bad. So yeah, don't do my mistake. Follow the template to a T, because I didn't think about the fact that that aligned the back and the front. But yeah, you can see all the extra butyl rubber, and I've just got all these clamps holding it down while it warms or cools off. So I'm gonna let this cool off for a little bit and come back to it, take these off and clean the butyl rubber off the front. Okay, so I've taped up the back to try to spray the back of this with Flex Seal. The Flex Seal is gonna get everywhere, but I'm trying to keep it in certain areas. So I'm gonna try my best just to spray around the butyl rubber. Another thing that I've learned, I think this butyl rubber was pretty cheap. I got it off Amazon. The butyl rubber on the car that came on the headlights, when you hit it with heat, it actually kind of melts back and gets back in form. This just sits there, so I don't think this is as good as butyl rubber, but I don't know that much about butyl rubber, so the other thing I'm worried about is Flex Seal is gonna get freaking everywhere, so we'll see how that goes. And the duct I have is flat here, so I had my friend make one and he made it flat because the way the Boosted duct has this edge here, they did that because up here there's one spot of the frame or the back of the headlight that actually hits, but the rest of this it wouldn't hit. So I'm gonna have to shave this side down to make sure it doesn't hit here, but with that edge that they have right here, it actually ducked in a little bit too far in there and it would have been harder for me to seal. So I decided to leave it flat and then I'll trim this on my own. But I'm gonna go ahead and start spraying this with Flex Seal. I don't know how well this is gonna go. Flex Seal is gonna get everywhere. So we'll see how well this goes. Hopefully I don't get it in places I don't want it. And actually I probably should, I'm gonna tape the lens. It's probably a great idea. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tape that lens. Well, this is all that Flex Seal on there. It's all the way around, so hopefully that will seal it. And then I super duper Flex Sealed in here. So there's like just a whole bunch of Flex Seal sitting on this side. Under the Flex Seal, as I showed in the last video, there is the butyl rubber, and then I did have to cut this down to fit it. I thought it was only gonna be this section, but it actually touches all the way through. So the way they had it actually was okay, but I'm happier with this because at least I have a little bit of this section sitting out. The way the Boosted one sat, it actually was just like a millimeter short of this ledge. So overall, happy the way this is gonna look. Let's hope it doesn't leak, because if it does, I will be taking this back apart in about a month. Yay for Joe. Let's see what happens.